Welcome to the DJ Insider Podcast, sponsored by Amplified Events.
It's the only podcast where we break down insider information from our weddings, experiences, and advice from over 15 years in the wedding industry.
We're your hosts. I'm Mike Kane, owner of Amplified Events.
And I'm Chris Zart, general manager of Amplified Events.
Let's get into it. Here's welcome back.
Welcome back.
Episode 5.
Another successful weekend.
Gonna do it.
With Amplified Events.
We had 4 this weekend.
Yeah.
I didn't hear how the other 2 went, but mine went pretty well. It was this beautiful garden in Sycamore, Illinois. It's about 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Went with Chum. It's like indoor-outdoor kind of brick, very artsy, and the couple was very artsy. Small wedding, maybe 70, 80 people, mostly family.
Nice.
A few friends. But absolutely gorgeous day for it. Like, just beautiful.
Yeah, weather was awesome on Saturday.
Really was. Both of the couple are like artists. I think they went to school for like art therapy.
Mm.
And they had the most unique like wedding gift / I thought it was name tags for like for your seating, but it wasn't. But it was like they literally had little tiny easels and canvases, like about that big, and they painted like famous paintings and popular paintings.
Oh, cool.
And it was like personalized for every person that came to their wedding.
Wow.
They hand painted it. I saw like I thought it was like a Basquiat and like they might have had like Van Gogh's like Starry Night. Like they had a lot of different ones on there that they hand. It was beautiful.
That's super unique.
Very unique. I think Chum got a photo. Their cat. You want to guess their cat's name?
I have no idea.
Bob Ross.
Oh.
Isn't that
yeah.
so perfect? They did their own vows, which
Nice.
is we always talk about. That's the way to do it.
Yep.
They had a friend marry them. That was the way to do it. Very unique and creative in their music. Lots of stuff we don't typically play. Lots of like really fun. I'm trying to think some of the big ones of the night. I opened up with like Jay and the Americans. Come a little bit closer. You know,
Nice.
Oh my gosh, people loved it.
So stuff that was new to you.
Yeah, you knew it short.
Not that you were used to playing at a wedding, I should
Yeah,
say.
lots of classics. Yeah, we avoided a lot of the typical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So some interesting things that happened. I got their officiant and the groom mic'd up, like we usually do. And the officiant, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure he had turned the mute button on. And so they're up there and there's nothing I could do, so I just cranked the groom's mic.
Yep.
And we did the best we could with it. I went up and I just apologized and took ownership of it. That's what I've learned you should just do. I don't think it was my fault, but I felt really bad that it didn't sound good, and
Yeah.
it was my fault for not double, triple, quadruple checking, making sure that worked. But everything else went fine. We cranked it. We did the best we could. I hit it off really well with the officiant, so he didn't feel to blame or anything. And then there was we did like intros. We introduced like a lot of the family and grandparents and stuff from their seats. And the groom side had an aunt, and there was another aunt apparently that I wasn't aware of. Like I went through the timeline. I always do with the couple beforehand.
Yeah.
And then when I line them up for intros, I go through it again. Is there anyone I'm missing? That kind of thing. And we're good. And then after I introduced everybody, one of the aunts came up. She's like, "There's another aunt that you forgot." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." So I went and checked with the couple, and sure enough, that was the case. And the groom felt really bad. I was like, "It's okay. I'll blame it on me. I will just announce, I'm so sorry. I forgot someone very special. You know, that kind of thing. Can we give it up for this person?"
Take the fall.
That's it. So I've learned that that's the easiest, funnest way to do it. Because, the families, they'll never see me again.
Yeah, and the couple doesn't want to have to feel guilty or
Yeah.
anything. No one wants to have to feel bad about, and that's not even too bad.
Yes.
It's not like,
It's really not a big thing. And especially with the DJ, it's better that I forgot it than them.
Right.
In the long term of things. And that's just, to me, that's customer service. Like, that's just, like, to do it. And they were happy. And I think it went really well. They danced all night. But smaller dance floor, but really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's kind of my thing. It's like, make the couple look good whenever you can. Even if it makes you look bad, make them look good.
Yeah. Like you said, you're never going to see the majority of those people again. It's highly unlikely.
I, of course, check with the couple to make sure that, because sometimes people are like, "You didn't announce me," and I check with the bride and groom. This is not this couple, but I've done this before, and the couple's like, "Do not introduce that person."
Yep.
There's some political thing going on inside the family that I'm unaware of. that I don't want to step on that landmine, and they wanted to kind of leave that out of it. But that was not the case here. The case was, I think the couple had just forgotten to announce that person. They weren't sure if they were going to make it. Or I don't know all the details. But it didn't matter. I just wanted to make that person feel seen and known, and make the couple. Another thing is, like, we kind of talk about this a lot, but like, this couple was like, we wanted to go on their timeline. We had, they had again, it was like 70 or 80 people, so it was a very intimate wedding. And so I was like, hey, do we want to start dancing? Do we want to talk? And they were like, oh, let's talk. Come back in 5 minutes. And I came back in 5 minutes. And I was checking with all the vendors too, all the photo and video. Like, do you guys, and then they're, okay, give us 10 more minutes. Or, oh, we need to pin up the dress. Or there was just like little extra things like that.
Yeah.
But I just really encouraged them. And every time the couple was like, we're so sorry. I was like, no, this is your day. Like, I want you to enjoy yourself. I want you to have fun. And ultimately, like, if it takes a little longer to do dancing, that's okay, because it seems like your family are talkers and they want to connect and you want to talk to people.
Yeah.
And once you're dancing, that'll be tough to do. So do it now. Do it now.
Absolutely.
Once we open up the dance floor, you know, it's going to get loud. It's going to get crazy.
People got plenty of time.
That's right.
Plenty of time.
That's right.
I know the day seems like it goes fast, but, you know, the way that we design these timelines too, and when we work with couples, we always have wiggle room.
Yes.
Like, we never... I mean, I've had people that are like, oh yeah, we can have dinner served and then we'll do dance floor open 20 minutes later. And I'm like, well, it is going to take an hour probably for people to eat and everything, so it's good to have that extra time. And then you don't feel rushed to get to the next thing and, you know, put that stress on us of like getting through all those events throughout the day, you know, stuff like that. Like,
yeah.
Keeping you on track. No one should feel bad or guilty of like, we're not at this point. Like, we should be doing this. It's 10 minutes late. It's like,
yeah,
it's okay. We designed this to be 10 minutes late. Like, and that was kind of my wedding over the weekend as well. Was, and it was nothing bad, but it was just like they wanted more time to take some pictures, and that was gonna delay like introductions by like 10 minutes, and they felt really bad. And I'm like, it's fine. Like, get your pictures. You only have this opportunity to get pictures with family that. They're all here today, and you don't know when you're going to get together with them again. It's
could be the last picture you ever take.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
You need to make sure that you're prioritizing the things that you want on your wedding day, and it's okay if I have to wait. And all that time just ate into our dance floor slightly, it was fine.
Yeah.
Once we got to there, they were super relaxed and just had a good time hanging with everybody, and it was fine. But yeah, kind of the same thing. They just had that like kept coming up to, oh, I'm so sorry. It's like, it's fine. It's totally fine. But
yeah, I always try to just encourage them, and that's going to be fine. And what I've learned too, and this kind of gets into my first question, is what's an ideal dance set length of time? As a DJ, most DJs will be like, oh, all night, man. You know, like, but if you do this for a living, especially if you do this with people who are not big dancers,
yeah,
you know, I would say about half the people typically at weddings don't dance, or they're not big. They do a couple songs and. Right. That's about it. You know, occasionally you get those weddings where everybody does it, or you get 75%, but generally usually between 20 and 40% of the guests are dancing most of the night. That's a good number. That's a good.
Right.
But I've learned that there's so many factors that affect that, but the length of the set can really affect it too.
My answer's changed pretty much every year, and I feel like it's getting shorter in like the time, and I think that's a good thing. I feel like when you are at 4 hours, like that, I think that's the longest you should go, and that is a long dance set. I would say the majority of the time, I see 3 to 3.5. That is like very common.
Sweet spot.
To be honest, my best dance sets have been like 2.5 hours.
Yes.
And the reason is because, and every person I talk to, they're always like, oh yeah, no, people get out there right away. It's like, they usually won't. Most dance floors do not start strong, and it's because all the events are finally done for the day. All the formalities are finally done. Everyone can finally just like socialize, relax. You're not like having to stay at your table. You don't have to wait through speeches. You've eaten food already. But, you know, a lot of people want to go to the bar, grab a drink, talk to some people they haven't talked to in a while. Even, you know, and also sometimes you're stuck at one table. You're with your family or whatever, but really you're wanting to talk to table 12, like on the complete opposite side of the room. So finally, when you're like, basically all these people are like let out of their cages, like they can finally, seriously, it's just like, oh, I gotta talk to grandma, I gotta talk to Uncle Bob, whatever, like, finally can let loose. They're gonna take that time to socialize the majority of the time. And like you said, there might be some stragglers, that small percentage that does get out there and they're like ready to go, but typically with like a 4 or 5 hour dance set, when I've done those, the first 2 hours, no dance floor. And it's also discouraging for me because I don't want to play bad music, but I don't want to also play the best songs because then I'm worried I can't play them again then. Because that's like I've already played this, but you know, maybe that song doesn't hit early in the night, but it would later when people are actually going to get out there. So it's like this game of, you know, I want to play good enough music to get people out there, but I don't want to waste all of my like my hits. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So yeah, that 2.5 hour range allows me to like not play a bunch of stuff to just fill time. I can just get into the music that they like their must plays, and I can just really like get the floor going. And the energy is just always like high from the start to the end. Like
Yes.
it doesn't die down, and there's no waiting then. So yeah, I would say 2.5 is like
2.5.
2.5 to 3
Yeah.
is like the perfect range.
I would say it's a similar thing, and you're right. It does kind of change.
You-
There's
you're
so many
alluding to
factors
that
to
you-
this, but as a general rule, yeah, 2.5 to 3 is really ideal. And I've done less than 2.5. I've done ones where we just got behind the day. Like there was food was late, or we started the ceremony late, or there's so many things that can happen that can delay. And generally, what happens is you just cut into your dance set.
Yeah.
And if you have 4 hours for a dance set, you got plenty of time to cut in. It's not a big thing.
Yes.
To go from 4 hours to 3.5 hours, that's actually, like you said, it's kind of an improvement. Like, because the first hour or two, especially if the weather's nice and people aren't really drunk yet and they don't really feel like dancing, it's still light out. We can go outside for pictures or chill or enjoy.
Absolutely.
Some people do bags or whatever. So a shorter dance set is good. And I love you said cages.
It's true though.
Yes,
You're confined.
You're kind of trapped
Yeah,
at that table.
because you have to be.
Yes,
Like, which
out
is
of
fine,
respect,
yeah.
we're listening to a speech, we're listening, and it's so funny because sometimes they go long, and then people like, all right, dinner's served, and everybody rushes to the bathroom, rushes to the bar, rushes
Right.
to food, rushes outside to have a smoke, whatever.
You have to be from ceremony up into right before the dance floor. You have to be where you need to be
Yes.
as a guest. The only free time you get is cocktail hour.
Yeah,
When you can, and that's so short. Like that hour. And also usually that hour ends up being shorter because most ceremonies get delayed by 10 minutes. I would say it's 90% of the time. If we're gonna start a ceremony at 4 o'clock, it starts at 4:10.
very few start on time. Very few.
It's extremely rare,
That's
that,
the- that's
and that's
the
not
win-
a bad thing.
It's not a secret,
Yeah.
but it's a big wedding secret, you know.
Yep.
Or we're gonna start right at 4. I'm like, okay, because that's like if you want to start at 4, maybe start it at 3:30. You
Right.
know.
But I do think that you shouldn't start by saying, okay, based on our timeline, we have 2.5 hours for dancing because, like
Yeah.
you were saying, things can get pushed back.
Sure.
So I think start with at least 3.
Yeah, give yourself
At
as much
least
time as
3,
you can.
like
to-
3 to 4, like, and then if something gets off, you only cut out a good 20 to 30 minutes of your dance. set.
Ideally, speeches takes up 30 minutes or less.
Agreed.
But in our
Yeah.
experience, usually it takes up 30 to an hour. In worst case scenarios, hour to an hour and a half.
Mm.
That's a long time. Because I've had those ones where I look at my watch and I go, we introduced an hour and a half ago and we still haven't done dinner. Because speeches have gone so long or something like that. You know?
I think going off of your question of how long should a dance set be, what time should a wedding end?
Ooh, this is tough.
Where should we end the night?
You know, in my younger years of DJing, I was like, let's go till 1 a.m., 2
Right.
a.m. I'm like, extra time. That one we did at that farm, and they kept paying us to stay later. We were there
yeah.
till 4 a.m.
That was great.
They just kept paying us to stay later.
But it was hard to say no.
Yeah, we were
worked
supposed
far
to be
from
done at
home.
10:30.
Like, yeah.
But they're like, here is beer and here is money. Please stay. And so we just kept playing music.
That was great. I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
That was so much fun.
Those are fun, but yeah, now that I'm older and have kids and sleep is so much more important to me, I'm like, let's be done at 11 or 10 or 10:30. Like I love being done a little earlier.
I think for their sake too. They have a longer day than we do.
Yes.
I would say once we hit the weddings that I'm going till midnight, once we hit 11, the guests, but especially the bridal party and the bride and groom, are exhausted.
Yeah.
And like that last hour from 11 to 10, I definitely have to play sing-alongs and nothing super dancey. Unless they really are super young, have like a bunch of energy, and they literally won't quit. That does happen.
Yes.
But most people, like you can tell, they're feeling it. It's been a long day. I mean, especially like the brides. I mean, my wife started way earlier than I did. She was up at like 6 in the morning.
Yeah.
She even slept the night before, so she was up probably earlier than that. And then like getting makeup, it's exhausting.
And I don't know if you had this at yours, but I didn't eat at my wedding. I barely ate.
I took 2
And I'm
bites.
just having alcohol and almost no water
Right.
and no food. and for 14 hours.
I stayed really hydrated, but I didn't eat. I didn't have time, honestly. I just felt so like, I think the adrenaline killed my appetite.
Yeah.
Because I was so like go that I couldn't like I was like, oh, there is food in front of me. And then I kept like on the dance floor going back to like take bites, and then someone took my plate and it was gone, and I was like, oh well, okay, that's fine. But then I think we had late night snacks later, and I like got down on that. But yeah.
Yeah, you're so not yourself on the day of your wedding. You're just not. Your hormones, everything is.
You're
dialed
like
to
the
11.
most extroverted version of yourself.
Yes. Yeah. Even us extroverts we need quiet times too.
Right.
And but you're right. It's just there is that kind of like you're almost frail and like excited and nervous, and you just don't eat, and just people are handing you drinks and shots and cheers and
Right.
congrats, and hopefully you get some cake. That's the. But yeah, I've done a few where it just got cut down to like an hour and a half, and man, those are nice too, because sometimes, like you said, there's almost like you have to warm a crowd up to get them dancing,
Right.
and then you get them hot like an engine, and you can just floor it. You can just hit them with banger after banger after banger, and especially if they're responding, you can take them on a journey. Like I've got them.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's some figuring out what the crowd likes. Sometimes the crowd needs to kind of like get more comfortable that, hey, we're going to be dancing a lot, or it's the weather's beautiful, but we call it in DJ industry, we call it breaks late. It's going to break late. So the last 2 hours are going to be wild. The first 2 hours are going to be it's going to be tough.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And you're right. The couple gives us all these songs they love that are like must plays, and we're like, okay, this song I know will get people out there. But it's 7:30.
Too early.
I should wait till 10:30 to play this song.
Yep.
So what do I got to do? How do I? And sometimes there's a bunch of kids or a bunch of grandparents or a bunch of other people who are not big dancers, but man, they can have a really fun night inside those first 2 hours.
Absolutely.
If you show them a good time. And
you're also catering to age range, too.
Yes.
Like, you want to make sure you can get that older crowd. If there's some kids there, too. Like, you only really have that beginning of the dance floor to do that, just because they're going to leave.
Yeah.
Most of them are going to leave,
Most
I
of
would say,
them, yeah.
earlier in the night. So, yeah, I feel like I want to try and get as many people out there as possible, so I try and play music that's going to get people of all age ranges, like, out there quickly and, just to get it going, like, right away. But, yeah, you have to ease it in. You got to ease it in. You can't just hop right in there. For sure. That phrasing was a little weird, but
you do.
Cut that.
No, it's fine. It's fine. And on that kind of note, like with music, we're often left with like you have to make decisions on like what do you think is going to hit, and then also like what do you think is going to be appropriate.
Right.
And what is so fun sometimes is to find out that this crowd likes really dirty music.
Yeah.
Or this crowd likes really clean music. That one's less fun to find out, but it's important to find that out in advance. So I ask that now when I'm meeting with my couples, like, do you want the clean versions? Do you want the dirty versions? Especially if I see one or two of these songs that show up in their requests that I'm like, that one can have a lot of, and so we talk. Usually I have a conversation with the couple, and they usually make it very clear if they want clean or dirty versions, or explicit, I guess. Then we, of course, have the conversation about, like, don't plays.
Yeah.
What songs should we avoid? What artists should we avoid?
You're fired.
Yes.
Play this song.
What are the most common ones you see that are don't plays? And what are some more uncommon ones that maybe people should consider keeping off their list?
I would say, the most common would be a lot of line dances, or, what we would probably classify as the cheese, which is like
The cheese.
Macarena, chicken dance,
Yeah.
I guess line dance, but
Yep.
like
YMCA,
slide, just YMCA, yeah,
Cotton Eye Joe.
stuff like that. And then also people are like, oh yeah, those are like the typical wedding songs, which is hilarious because to me, they're the last songs that I want to play, and it's also the game of like, and I'm really sorry if you like those songs. If you do, then I will play them at your wedding, and I'll have no problem with that. But getting the permission to also hate something with your couple at the same time, you cannot be the first person to say it. So when I'm on the phone, I was just on the phone with a couple, and they were like, by the way, because I mentioned that, hey, you have this do not play section, you haven't filled it out. what should I avoid? Is there a genre? Is there an artist, a specific song? They're like, and they named all the ones I just said, YMCA, like Macarena, yeah, like all of those. And then I could finally be like, listen, I feel the exact same way. And I even told them, I'm like, I cannot be the first one to say this. I can't say, like, I also dislike this music. You have to say it first so that I can be like, yes, like, we're on the same team here. But if you're like, I love those songs, I'm just going to be like, yeah, of course I'll play those songs. No problem at all. But, yeah, those are, like, the top ones. I mean, there's really not a lot of music that I dislike playing at weddings.
Sure.
But, yeah, like, the cheese.
The
Yeah.
cheese. Everyone has that one song, and you're like, I don't like playing this, but I will.
Right.
If they want me to. Do you have one that comes to mind?
Probably Despacito.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just because, well, I went through, there was like a phase of everyone was really into that song.
Yes.
And it died off, and not a lot of people are anymore. So when I do get it requested, like, and it'll be like 5 people. And like sometimes in the wedding party, and they're like, yeah, play it. And I play it, and then they're just, it's like not really too danceable.
Mm-hmm.
And then most of it's in Spanish, and most people can't sing along to it. So it's like, they just kind of like, yeah, I know this song. But it's just, I don't know, it just doesn't hit like it used to. But there was a time where it was like, I would play it all the time. It would be a good like transition song into a bunch of other things, especially like the BPM range it's in and stuff like that. But yeah, that one I'm kind of a bit sick of. But that's probably it. Like, yeah. What about you?
Oh man, I always my quick to answer is Cotton Eye Joe.
Mm.
It's just.
That one's kind of fun, honestly.
It is fun, and people do line dances to it now, and so I've kind of come around on it. I definitely don't get upset, and definitely don't let on that I don't like that song.
I like mixing something really hard out of it, though.
Yeah.
Like, if I could get some, like, crazy Lil Jon song going, like, off of Cotton Eye Joe, because then people are like, Cotton Eye Joe, what? Like, and then they hear that, and they're like, oh, that's... And then turn down for what? You know, like, right out of it. That's like, I try and make myself enjoy the mix from a song that I don't like, you know?
Yeah, I really do enjoy like mixing stuff I wouldn't normally. I did that a lot at this wedding too, where I played "Rolling in the Deep" by Adele.
Mm-hmm.
I did some interesting ones. I played "Dance Yourself Clean." I did "Burning Down the House."
Nice.
I guess it was very artsy kind of, but it was really fun to kind of play around and mix different stuff that I wouldn't normally. Drop some bangers in with some kind of like forgotten classics or some songs that are really awesome that don't typically get requested at weddings.
Yeah.
Wish I had any more notes because I kept leaning over to Chum. I go, "This is the first time I've played this song, and man, look how well it's going." Or this is.
I have like a whole notepad file going
It's
of just
gonna
like
blow their minds.
when I mix something and I didn't expect it to be like super cool, and and it was something that I would like not normally do. I just have this list going of like just so I remember because it's. I have all. I'm sure you do too, but all these mixes that you've done over the years that you just know work really well.
Yeah.
But it's great when you stumble upon like a new one, like you were saying.
Yeah. What are the gems? So we've talked about like the songs that you like. Oh, I hate playing this song, but I will. There's some songs that I secretly just really love to play.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have like a certain, I want to protect that song from crowds.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is this crowd good enough? Are they going to treat this song the way I think it should be treated? Like, they're going to dance right to it, you know?
Yeah.
Or sometimes I'll play it, I'm like, ugh, I wish I hadn't played this for this. You guys were not worth this song, you know?
I like the EDM mixes I've been really getting into, especially when I'm at Walden. Like all the couples there are like super into EDM and that kind of stuff. So if I can start with like Every Time We Touch by Cascada, and then I can go into like Sandstorm, and then it just kind of goes from there. And then that range of like BPM, there's so many songs that fit in there. But yeah, like Every Time We Touch is always like a great starter song. And that usually, like, I don't know, I think it's kind of an age thing, like where we're at right now, where like most people are like late 20s, having weddings, like love that song. Mm-hmm. And that was like a song that was like on a CD that my sister made for me when she was in high school, like in the early 2000s. So it's like kind of nostalgic for me, for my childhood. And I think people that are close to my age, the same thing. So that's like, I don't know, that song really hits.
Yes.
And Sandstorm and like, yeah, all those just like.
There's a lot of energy in those.
Yep.
I really like to do Give Me Everything, Pitbull and Neo. Love to play
like
that song.
one.
If I'm at a wedding, I'll usually request that if I'm not DJing.
That's a solid one.
Or We Found Love, Rihanna.
Mm-hmm.
Or I like to do some old ones too. I'll do Hips Don't Lie, Shakira.
Nice.
That's
I haven't played that in a
That's a
while.
good, fun one, and there's some fun mixes you can make with that one.
Yeah.
And then it's Return of the Mac, Mark Morrison. That is a real fun one, especially to like. There's songs that kind of like, if the crowd likes this, I know a lot of other songs are gonna like. They're almost like signpost kind of songs.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, you like this, you're gonna like this, you know, kind of thing. Because then you can hit them with like, what's that one? It's kind of hard. Yeah, This Is How We Do It.
Hmm.
You can hit them with that. You can hit them with a ton of like Hot Stepper and a lot of those 90 Digital Underground, you know.
It's crazy when you start with one song and then like you form this like timeline in your head of you just know exactly where you want to go. And you just start with this one song and you're like, oh, I know I can go here and then I can transition to this. And you just make this whole plan. And it's great when you just go through that whole plan and it just keeps working. And it's like impossible to play that song. And just the flow just keeps getting better and better. There's like nothing better than that. When you can just like formulate this plan in your head and just execute it and it goes exactly how you want to, which is wonderful.
I mean, it's what you want as a DJ. Is everybody's vibing it, everybody is feeling it, everyone is dancing and singing, and you can't play a bad song.
Yep.
We do this thing where we rate weddings. This is we probably won't rate we won't rate the weddings
You
on
used
this
to do that
podcast.
all the time when we started working together.
Yes.
Like we'd be in the car and you'd be like, scale of 1 to 10, this entire wedding day, what would you rate it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I miss that. You don't ask that as much anymore.
We've got to start doing that more, because it's fun. Because you really do start to, because there's very few in my life. Because we do a 1 to 10. 10 is like the best wedding ever, and then 1 is like, oh man, I couldn't. That was a tough one.
Right.
You know. And most of them probably 7s, 8s.
Yeah, I'd say so.
There's a few 5, 6s, but above an 8, those are rare and those are memorable.
Yep.
And there's 1 or 2 that have been like an 11. Where it's just wall to wall, old and young, dancing, singing. They're like, they tip really well. Like they're super happy. They write us an amazing review. Like it's just, you can't do anything wrong. Like
A big part for me is that when I enjoy being around the guests.
Yes.
And they almost treat me as if I'm like another guest of the
yes, or like a family member.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll bring you a
super
drink, put
friendly
your
with
arm
me,
around you.
Yeah. Like that's always like a huge. It just makes my night so much better.
Yeah. They want to get a photo with you.
Right.
The couple like in their speech thanks you. You know, those kind of things are always really nice as a vendor to like. Oh, thank you. Like,
Absolutely.
Thanks for thinking of us.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate that. But then there's those ones where it's like, oh man, like there's nothing. Every song I play is a flop. It just doesn't work. And
Right.
I was telling Chum that like this job really taught me that it's not all about me, and that like there's just people you're never gonna please, and there's situations it's very difficult to please.
Absolutely.
And that's what DJing is. You want to play songs that make people feel comfortable, to dance, to make memories, but you're not always in control of that.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about like those nights that are an 11 out of 10, where you can't play a bad song. Every mix is tight, every song hits, even the sing-alongs, even the slow ones, people are out there. And there's one, you could do the exact same set list, not change a song the next night, and nobody will dance.
Yep.
Nobody will come out. You're begging people, let us know your requests, whatever. If the DJ's asking for requests on the mic, they're pretty desperate. Because we usually have plenty of music, and we know what we want to do, and we know what the couple has told us they want to do. But if we're asking for songs, then we're like pretty desperate about getting people out there.
Absolutely. Well, and it's crazy how easy we can be to blame for like, and sometimes we totally know. Like, there are times where I'm like, oh, is it me? Am I the reason why this dance floor's not happening? But generally, like, I will figure out and I'll play exactly what I need to play. And if I'm still not getting the dance floor going after like everything that I could possibly try and do, I just know that either it's gonna break late, like you were mentioning earlier, or sometimes people just want to socialize, and that's like okay. Obviously, with this podcast, it's called the DJ Insider Podcast. We're trying to give people insight on, our perspective in the wedding industry, kind of dealing with, I guess, like misconceptions. Mainly.
Yes, the behind the scenes
so
stuff.
What would you say are like some of the biggest common misconceptions about DJs in general, wedding DJs?
I think people very quickly forget that we're human, that we're people too,
and
that like we want this to go well. We want everything in our power to make sure it happens.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, every wedding there's 2 or 3 things that don't go to plan.
Mm-hmm.
My wedding on the weekend, the last week, this past Saturday, the mic was turned off on mute. I couldn't do anything. I would have to interrupt the ceremony to unmute that mic. It was
Right.
clipped on. There was a button on the mic that I could not unpress. You know, I didn't introduce somebody that was offended that I didn't recognize them. Although I couldn't do anything about that. So you got to let that go. Sometimes people don't dance. You have a great mix. You have great songs. You got a great setup. People don't. Sometimes people don't. They're not in the mood. But the biggest, the misconception is that like this DJ is an egomaniac and doesn't care and just wants to play his stuff and he's not playing my requests because he's a jerk or whatever.
Right.
The worst is when people treat you like you're the help. That like you are lower than us. DJ, play my song because you are less than me. That's the worst.
Yeah.
Is when they treat you just with such disrespect that they don't even value and show you dignity as a human being. That, why don't you play my song? Your stuff sucks. Like they'll come up to me. We did one earlier this year where there was this young kid was just screaming at me. He was literally on the dance floor going like this, just making a big scene about how much he hated the music. And then I'm like, what do you want to hear? And then he couldn't give me anything. Couldn't give me any songs he wanted to hear. But he just wanted to just crap on what I was doing. It wasn't good enough for him.
Well, and going back to what you're saying earlier, the fact that people think that this is an easy job,
It's not.
It's not at all.
You're balancing so many factors that are out of your control. You want to keep the couple happy, keep the guests happy, keep the venue and the staff happy. You want to be invited back. You want to do a good job. You want people to dance. I always tell them, like, could you get a room full of people to dance right now if I snap my fingers?
Mm-hmm.
No, most people couldn't. How are you going to do that? How could you possibly do that?
Absolutely. And I was going to say, like, I think people think that we have more power and control than we actually do.
Yeah.
You know, and I've had people come up before and they're like, hey, do you think you could, like, what could you do to get people out here? Could you, like, make an announcement and tell people? And I'm like, well, no, I'm not going to get on the microphone and be like, please come on the dance floor, please.
Dance, please.
I'll cry. I'll cry if you don't. Please
Desperation
do
is
it.
not attractive.
And I don't want to force people. Like, when I'm at a wedding, if someone were to come up to me and they're like, hey, you should be dancing right now, I would want to dance less than I already did.
Yes.
Like, no one wants to be forced into doing something they don't want to do.
That's right.
All I can do is provide good music
That's right.
and not have a big ego and just, like...
It's not a personal thing when they don't dance. It feels that way sometimes, but really, we're there to curate. We're there to curate a nice playlist of danceable music that reflects the couple's taste and the crowd's taste.
Yep.
And we're there to curate a nice atmosphere that is conducive to making you want to dance.
Yes.
And we're going to do everything we can control to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
But all the stuff we can't control, you got to let it go and or take credit for it because you got to keep rolling.
Mm-hmm.
You got to just keep rolling with the punches, keep moving, and eventually, hopefully, it breaks late. But sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't. Most of the time, it does. But sometimes people just. I've had ones where it was 1,000 degrees. We're inside a hot barn. Nobody's dancing. They're exhausted. They need water. They need sleep. I've had ones where it's a gorgeous day and they don't want to be in this small little tent. They want to be outside enjoying this beautiful lake we're nearby or something.
Right.
Or it's bitter cold and everybody's like, I'm going home. I'm getting hypothermic. I've had those ones too. Or it's raining or just crazy weather.
Yeah.
It's wild how much weather affects dance floors, but it does.
Honestly, yeah.
So, that's a great question. I'll have to keep thinking on that because
There's a lot, yeah.
a lot of misconceptions. Well, I think that about wraps it. Anything else before we go?
I don't think so.
All right. I'm Mike.
I'm Chris.
Thanks so much. Appreciate you guys.
Cool.